The storm didn't begin with thunder. It began with a whisper. A thin trail of smoke rose from the single candle flickering in the center of the dark living room, its light trembling like a heartbeat. Daniela stood beside her father's recliner, watching the glow dance across his aging face. His eyes were half closed, his breath slow and uneven, each one a reminder of how fragile he had become. Outside, wind scraped against the windows, rattling the old frames she had repaired herself last winter. The house always made noises now, groans, sighs, tiny protests of a structure older than her memories. Daniela knew every one of them. She had lived inside their echoes for years. "Are you cold, Dad?" she whispered. Her father blinked slowly. "No, just tired." He always said that. He had been just tired for 6 years. Daniela tucked the blanket under his arms and stepped back, letting the candlelight blur his face into softness. She held his gaze for a moment, searching for signs of the man he used to be. Some days she found him. Today she found only the faint outlines. A car door slammed outside. Daniela's spine stiffened. Not now, she thought, not tonight. Heavy footsteps trampled the front porch, followed by the impatient buzz of the doorbell. Daniela closed her eyes briefly, drawing in a calming breath, then opened the door. Javier stepped in without waiting for an invitation. Her brother looked like he had stepped out of a magazine cover, sharp coat, polished shoes, a confidence so loud it filled the room before he spoke. But beneath the charm, there was a hardness in his eyes she had come to recognize, the kind that appeared whenever he wanted something. "Wow," he said, sweeping a glance around the small living room. "Still looks exactly the same. You'd think after all this time you'd have fixed the lighting at least." "I've been busy," Daniela said. He shrugged. "You live here, how busy can you be?" The words stuck, not because they were new, but because he delivered them with the same casual cruelty he used on clothes: wear, discard, forget. Daniela felt her jaw tighten. Their father's face lit faintly when he saw Javier. "Son," he murmured. "It's been a while." "Yeah, work's been insane," Javier said, leaning down to kiss his cheek. "Big deals. Important clients. You know how it is." Daniela knew exactly how it was. He always had time for deals, never for them. Javier straightened and looked at Daniela again. This time something sharp flickered behind his smile. "So," he said, "we should talk." A warning curled in Daniela's stomach. The room felt smaller suddenly, the silence heavier. "What about?" she asked carefully. "About the house," Javier said. "And Dad's future." Her pulse stumbled. Her house, her father's safety, her entire life. Javier walked toward the window, hands in his pockets, staring out at the storm rolling across the sky. "This place is falling apart, Danny. You know it. Dad can't keep living here like this. And neither can you." He turned, smile too smooth. "But don't worry, I've figured everything out." Her fingers tightened against her palms. He always figured things out, as long as they benefited him. "What exactly did you figure out?" she asked. Javier's smile widened, practiced, gleaming, confident. "I found a buyer." The candle flickered violently, almost dying. Daniela felt the room tilt. Her breath thinned. The storm outside cracked like a warning. Javier kept talking, unaware or uncaring of the devastation detonating in her chest. "This house," he said lightly, "is about to make us both very rich." But Daniela heard something else hidden beneath his voice. A sentence he hadn't spoken yet. A sentence she felt like a knife pressed to her throat. "You're not staying, not anymore." And somewhere deep inside her, something sharp and long buried opened its eyes. The storm had finally arrived. For a moment, the only sound in the room was the wind pressing against the windows, like the house itself was holding its breath, waiting for what came next. Daniela swallowed the knot in her throat. She kept her voice calm, but the ground beneath her felt thinner than paper. "A buyer?" she repeated. Javier turned, leaning casually against the window frame, as if dropping bombs into people's lives was a relaxing hobby. "Yeah, a serious one. Came in above market value." He glanced at their father. "It's the best thing for everyone. Dad moves somewhere stable. You figure out something else. Something else." As if her life were a spare room he could pack up and evict at will. Daniela's father shifted in his recliner, confusion clouding his expression. Move? What move? Javier's voice softened, but only for their father. A good place, Dad. Great care. You'll be comfortable. Daniela stepped between them instinctively. He didn't agree to anything. Javier raised a brow. He will, once he hears the plan. There it was, the arrogance, the confidence that everyone could be swayed, managed, maneuvered into his blueprint. Daniela felt heat rise up her spine. This house isn't just a building, she said quietly. It's his home. It's a problem, Javier corrected. A money drain, a liability. And frankly, Danny, you can't keep up with it. I mean, look around. He gestured to the dim lighting, the worn carpets, the patched-up walls. You've tried, but you're drowning. She looked at the walls he mocked, walls she had painted, sanded, repaired after long nights, walls that remembered her exhaustion, her sacrifices, her constant presence. He only saw what needed replacing. He never saw what she gave. Why now, she asked. Javier hesitated. It was small, half a second, but she caught it, a crack in his polished composure. Then he smiled, but it was too tight. Because things are changing. Dad's health. He shrugged. It's time. Daniela knew a half-truth when she heard one. There was something else. Something he wasn't saying. And she wasn't ready to let it go. You didn't come to check on Dad, she said softly. You came to make a deal. Javier's eyes hardened. Don't make this dramatic. That's exactly what it is. Their father squinted at them, confused. Kids, don't fight. Javier walked over and put a hand on his shoulder. We're not fighting, Dad. We're planning. I'm trying to help. Daniela stared at that hand. Steady, comforting, practiced. Javier always knew how to look like the responsible one. She was the one who lived the responsibility. Dad, she said, kneeling beside him, do you want to leave this house? Her father looked around at the walls lined with photographs, his wedding portrait, Daniela's childhood drawings he'd refused to take down, the old wooden clock he'd built decades ago. His brow furrowed. I don't know, he murmured. I like it here, but I forget things sometimes. Javier seized the moment. Exactly. That's why he needs proper care, Danny. This house isn't safe for him anymore. Daniela stood slowly, her heartbeat heavy in her chest. You should have talked to me before making decisions like this, she said. I tried, Javier's voice sharpened. But you're so wrapped up in playing caretaker that you can't see the bigger picture. She felt the words hit like cold water, playing caretaker. If only he knew the price. I see more than you think, she replied. Javier checked his watch. Look, Dad's tired. We shouldn't do this now. I came to give you a heads up, that's all. He stepped toward the door. The buyer's expecting a confirmation soon. I'd like it to be a united front. United front. Another phrase he used like he owned the meaning. Daniela didn't move, didn't blink. Javier paused at the door. You okay? He asked, too casually. Daniela forced a breath. Never better, he smirked. Good. Because this is happening fast. And then he left, the door slamming lightly behind him. The house felt colder. Her father looked smaller. And Daniela, standing in the dim glow of the single candle, felt something inside her shift. A slow rising of something fierce, something she had buried under years of silence. Not anger, not fear, resolve. She walked to the window and watched Javier's car disappear into the storm. If he wanted a united front, he would get one, just not the one he expected. Somewhere inside her chest, a decision settled like a stone at the bottom of a river. She wasn't losing the house. Not again, not this time, not to him. And the walls seemed to hum in agreement. Old, loyal witnesses, waiting for the moment she would finally stop enduring and start fighting. The storm outside cracked louder, but the one inside her was louder still. The house was silent after Javier left, the kind of silence that carried weight, like a curtain falling after a performance no one enjoyed. Daniela stood in the darkened hallway, long after the echo of his footsteps had vanished. Her father had drifted into a restless sleep, murmuring half-formed memories, leaving her alone with the heavy thrum of her own heartbeat. She didn't cry, she didn't break, but something inside her cracked open, a quiet, trembling fracture that let in a cold, necessary clarity. She walked toward her father's study. It had been untouched for years, a room frozen in time. Books stacked everywhere, papers piled like miniature mountains, the faint scent of old wood and dust settling over everything like a forgotten blessing. Daniela pushed the door open and switched on the lamp. The room glowed with a warm, golden haze. She had avoided this place for months, maybe years. The last time she'd stepped inside, she'd been organizing bills, prescriptions, notices, fragments of a life slowly slipping away. She had tucked many things into drawers, telling herself she would sort them later. Later had finally arrived. She knelt beside the old mahogany desk, pulling open each drawer carefully, looking for anything that could give her leverage against Javier's sudden takeover. Unpaid medical forms, outdated insurance documents, postcards, warranty papers, receipts from years ago. Then, at the bottom of the last drawer, beneath a pile of stationery and a cracked fountain pen, she found a slim, heavy envelope sealed with a blue sticker. Her father's handwriting scrawled across the front in shaky letters. Daniela, in case something happens. Her chest tightened. She sat on the dusty carpet, holding the envelope like a fragile piece of truth. Her fingers trembled as she broke the seal. Inside were several papers clipped together. The first page was dated 2 years earlier. A trust document, her father's signature, a witness signature, a notary stamp. Her breath caught. She read the title twice, unable to believe what she was seeing. Transfer of property into the Daniela Emerios Trust. Irrevocable, meaning it could not be undone. Not by Javier, not by the family, not even by her father in his current state. Daniela pressed a hand to her mouth as the realization hit her in waves. Her father had already protected her, protected the house, protected everything she had given up for him, before Javier's greed, before the family whispers, before the world decided she was convenient instead of essential. Her father had known, and he had chosen her. Her throat tightened with an emotion too tangled to name, part grief, part relief, part love so fierce it felt like a wound. She read through every page, her eyes scanning rapidly. The house, the land, all assets connected to the property. Everything was hers. Legally, completely. Javier's buyer could offer $1 million and it wouldn't matter. He had no authority to sell anything, not even a brick. Daniela leaned back against the desk, the lamp casting soft shadows across her face. Her breathing steadied, but her pulse raced with a new, startling force. If Javier thought he could bulldoze her life, he was about to learn how wrong he was. A sudden knock jolted her upright. She froze. 3 slow knocks, not Javier's, not family, someone else. She stood and moved quietly to the living room. When she opened the door, a tall woman stood beneath the porch light, a leather briefcase in hand, her expression calm but firm. "Daniela Rios?" the woman asked. Daniela blinked. "Yes. I'm Patricia Lane," the woman said, extending a card. "I was your father's estate attorney 2 years ago. I'm here because your brother attempted to initiate a sale on the property earlier today. The buyer's attorney contacted our office for verification." Daniela felt the air leave her lungs. "He did what?" "I'm legally obligated to inform you," Patricia continued, "that the trust your father established is active, protected, and in your full favor. I thought you should know immediately." As she spoke, a black sedan parked behind her. A man stepped out, wearing a county-issued badge clipped to his coat. "Evening," he said. "We're verifying property status due to a flagged transfer attempt." Daniela stared at them. 2 strangers, 2 professionals, 2 unexpected allies, all standing on her porch as if summoned by her rising resolve. The storm wind whipped across the yard, bending the branches of the old maple tree. Patricia met Daniela's eyes. "Miss Rios, do you want us to proceed?" "Proceed. Not just with paperwork, but with truth, with confrontation, with reclaiming everything she'd swallowed for years." Daniela looked past them at the dark street, then at the envelope still clutched in her hand. "Yes," she said softly, then stronger. "Yes, it's time." And with those words the ground beneath her shifted. Not breaking, transforming. This was no longer Javier's game. It was hers. The night had thickened, heavy with the weight of a storm that refused to break. Rain hovered in the air but hadn't yet fallen, as though the sky itself was holding its breath, waiting for the moment Daniela stepped across the line she'd spent years avoiding. Patricia stood firm beside her, briefcase in hand, the county officer just behind her. They were like two pillars, solid and unmoving, framing the doorway Daniela had been pushed through her whole life. "Whenever you're ready," Patricia said quietly. Daniela nodded, clutching the trust documents in her hand. The paper felt warm from her grip, alive with her father's signature and an authority stronger than Javier's ego would ever admit. She glanced back toward the living room where her father still slept. His soft breathing floated through the hallway, a reminder of why she was doing this, for him, for herself. For the 6 years she'd sacrificed and the countless nights she'd held this house together through exhaustion and sheer stubborn love. She took a deep breath. "Let's go," she said. Patricia gave a small, approving nod. The county officer stepped aside, letting Daniela lead. Together, the three walked toward the dining room, the center of every family gathering, every celebration, every argument, the room that held her family's worst assumptions and their best memories. It was empty now, quiet except for the faint ticking of the wooden clock her father built decades ago. The table still carried faint burn marks from old holiday candles Daniela had once watched so carefully. It was the heart of the house. It was where everything would end, or begin. Patricia lowered her voice. "Your brother initiated a fraudulent sale. It's your right to address it however you choose." Daniela exhaled slowly. She had imagined 1,000 versions of tonight. None of them included lawyers and county officials, or Javier's arrogance threatening to burn her life down. But now, standing here with the trust documents glowing under dim lights, she felt something she hadn't in years. Control. "I don't want revenge," she said. "I want truth, and you'll have it," Patricia assured. A sudden burst of headlights spilled through the front windows. A car, fast, too fast. Daniela froze. Patricia stepped closer. The county officer instinctively positioned himself between the door and the women. The engine shut off. Then the slam of a car door cut through the quiet. Javier. His footsteps stormed up the porch. Louder, heavier, sharper than before. The door jerked open without a knock. Javier stepped inside, rain glistening on his hair despite the dry sky. His face was pulled tight, anger, confusion, something darker underneath. "Danny," he said, chest rising and falling fast. "What the hell is going on? I just got a call from the buyer. He said someone told him the sale can't happen, that you—" He stopped when he saw Patricia and the county officer. His eyes narrowed. "Who are they?" he demanded. Daniela didn't move, didn't flinch. "They're here because of you," she said. Javier scoffed. "What is this? Some dramatic stunt to make me look bad?" "No," Patricia said coolly. "This is a legal intervention." Javier blinked, thrown off balance. "Legal what?" Daniela lifted the trust papers. Her hands didn't shake this time. "This is why the sale can't happen, Javier." He frowned, stepping closer, trying to catch the header on the top page. "What is that?" Daniela finally spoke the words that shifted the air between them, words she'd held inside for too long. "It's the truth you never bothered to ask for." She handed him the document. Javier snatched it, scanning the lines with growing confusion, then dawning realization, then disbelief so sharp it bordered on panic. "What?" His voice cracked. No, this has to be wrong. Dad wouldn't." "He did," Daniela said. 2 years ago. But I'm the eldest. He should have told me. He didn't tell me either," she replied softly. "He just chose." Javier let the pages fall slightly, his fists tightening. "This isn't fair," he whispered, the cracks in his voice no longer subtle. "You're telling me Dad gave you everything? This house? The property? Without even talking to me?" "No," Daniela said gently. "Dad didn't give me everything." She stepped forward, meeting his stunned, wounded eyes. "He gave me what I earned." Silence fell between them, thick, unavoidable, final. Patricia's voice cut the stillness. "Mr. Rios, you attempted to sell a property you do not own. The county is here to document the fraudulent attempt. Any further action will be pursued formally." The county officer stepped forward. "You need to acknowledge the notice." Javier stared at the officer, then the papers, then Daniela. His voice came out barely above a whisper. "You blindsided me." Daniela's eyes softened, not out of pity but exhaustion. "No," she said, "you blinded yourself." Javier stood there trembling, not in rage this time but in realization. The life he tried to take from her, it had never been his, and he knew it. Daniela held his gaze. The storm finally broke outside, and inside the house something else broke too. But something stronger began to form. The storm tore open the night. Rain hammered the windows in violent sheets as thunder rattled the house, a perfect echo of the chaos erupting in the dining room. The old chandelier trembled faintly, throwing fractured light across Javier's stunned face. He stood frozen, trust papers clutched in his hands like they were burning him. "No," he whispered. "No. This can't be real." Daniela didn't move. She had spent years shrinking herself in this house, second-guessing, tiptoeing, accommodating. But not tonight. Tonight she stood tall, quiet, steady, unshakable. "Read it again," she said softly. "Every word." Javier's eyes darted over the pages, desperate, frantic, as though if he read fast enough the truth might rearrange itself. Thunder cracked, and the chandelier flickered, illuminating the moment his denial melted into something raw. Fear. "Dad was confused," he said, voice trembling. "He must have been. He wouldn't cut me out. I'm his son, and I'm his daughter," Daniela replied. "The one who stayed." Her words were calm, but they carried weight. Years of swallowed hurt, years of unpaid emotional labor, years of silence breaking open. Javier's jaw clenched. "You think caring for him gives you the right to everything?" "No," Daniela said. Her voice was steady, unshakable. "It gives me the right to not be erased." Patricia stepped forward, her tone professional yet cuttingly precise. "Mr. Rios, the trust was created when your father was evaluated and deemed mentally competent. He understood completely what he was signing." Javier's glare snapped to her. "Stay out of this. This is my business," Patricia replied coolly. "Your father hired me. You chose not to show up." The words hit him like a slap. Javier staggered back, bracing himself against the dining table. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, mercilessly, as if marking the seconds until his world collapsed. Daniela took a slow step toward him. "You didn't come home for 6 years," she said. "Not for holidays, not for emergencies, not when Dad had his second stroke. Not when I couldn't sleep for nights because I thought I'd lose him in the next room." Javier swallowed hard, but Daniela wasn't finished. "You didn't call when the roof caved in during the storm. You didn't ask when the doctor bills doubled. You didn't know the pharmacy started refusing Dad's prescriptions until I paid them up front." Her voice cracked, not with weakness, but with the unbearable truth finally escaping after years of being trapped in her chest. "You didn't know, because you never asked." For the first time all night, Javier looked truly shaken. "I was working," he said weakly. "I had obligations." "So did I," Daniela whispered. "But I chose Dad." Silence swallowed the room. Outside, lightning cut across the sky. Rain hit the windows like hail. But inside the house, something even more electric surged. A truth neither of them could outrun anymore. Javier looked down at the trust papers, rainwater dripping from his hair onto the ink. His fingers shook. His voice broke open. "I wasn't trying to hurt him," he whispered. "I wasn't trying to hurt you. I needed the money. My business. Things are falling apart. I thought if I sold the house, I could save myself and take care of Dad at the same time." Daniela felt a painful twist inside her. Not sympathy, just the ache of finally understanding what lay beneath his cruelty. Fear, desperation, failure he hid behind arrogance. But understanding wasn't forgiveness. "You tried to take everything from me," she said quietly. Javier's breath hitched. "I didn't think you'd fight back." "That's the problem," Daniela replied. "None of you ever thought I would." The house creaked then, loud, groaning under the weight of the storm. It sounded almost alive, almost aware, as though the walls themselves were finally witnessing Daniela's truth. The county officer stepped forward. "Mr. Rios, I need your verbal acknowledgement that you understand the property belongs to Miss Rios." Javier stared at him, lost, cornered, undone. "Say it," Patricia said sharply. Javier's eyes lifted to Daniela's. She held his gaze, not with spite, but with a strength he had never seen in her before. And in that moment, Javier broke. His shoulders slumped. His voice cracked. He closed his eyes. "The house is yours." Daniela inhaled sharply. It wasn't triumph she felt, it was release. Heavy, bittersweet, overwhelming. For the first time in years, she wasn't invisible. For the first time in years, she stood on solid ground. Javier placed the papers on the table, refusing to meet her eyes. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so damn sorry." The storm raged, the chandelier flickered. The truth finally stood unobstructed between them, and Daniela, breathing shakily, felt the moment settle in her bones. This was the climax not of vengeance, but of reclamation. Her voice, her worth, her home. She had taken them back, and nothing, not even blood, would take them again. The storm eased by dawn. Clouds pulled apart like tired curtains, letting thin ribbons of gold spill across the neighborhood. The house, battered but still standing, glowed softly in the early light. Daniela sat on the back porch, her father's old blanket wrapped around her shoulders, listening to the quiet drip of rainwater sliding from the roof. For the first time in years, the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt earned. Inside, the trust papers lay neatly stacked on the dining table, no longer symbols of conflict but anchors, steady, unquestionable, hers. Patricia and the county officer had left hours ago, taking the storm's chaos with them. Javier had walked out shortly after, shoulders bowed, face drained, leaving only the faint echo of a man who finally saw the truth he spent years avoiding. He didn't say goodbye, but he didn't need to. Some endings don't require words, only acceptance. Daniela breathed in the cool morning air, letting her heartbeat finally slow. The weight she'd carried for years, guilt, obligation, invisibility, felt lighter now, as if the storm had scrubbed it from her bones. Her father stirred inside, calling her name softly. She went to him. He sat in his recliner, wrapped in the blanket she'd placed over him the night before. His eyes flickered with confusion, then warmth. "Morning, sweetheart," he murmured. "Morning, Dad," she said, kneeling beside him. He touched her cheek gently. "You okay?" His memory was fading, blank spaces appearing where certainty used to live, but somehow he felt the shift in the air. Felt her steadiness. Felt the change. "I'm okay," Daniela whispered. "We're okay." He nodded, satisfied with her answer even if he didn't fully understand it. She helped him up, guiding him through his morning routine, a ritual filled with small gestures of love. But today, the exhaustion didn't sink into her bones the same way. The resentment, the fear, the loneliness. They weren't clawing at her anymore. Because today she knew the truth. She wasn't doing this alone, not anymore, and not ever again. By midday, her aunt arrived with groceries. Vanessa came by to help clean the kitchen. A cousin sent a message offering to mow the lawn next weekend. One by one, the same relatives who once laughed blindly at Javier's words now showed up, not out of guilt alone, but out of recognition. They saw Daniela now. The invisible daughter had stepped into the light, and no one could pretend she didn't exist anymore. Later that afternoon, Javier returned. Daniela found him standing on the porch, shoulders hunched, hands in his pockets like a scolded teenager rather than the man who'd tried to uproot her life. His eyes lifted to hers. No arrogance, no bravado, just humility. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. She stepped outside, crossing her arms against the cool breeze. "I won't take long," he added. "I just need to say this." Daniela waited. Javier took a shaky breath. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it yet, but I want to try. I want to show up for Dad and for you. I can't undo what I did, but I can do better going forward. If you'll let me—" His voice faltered. It was the closest thing to truth she'd ever heard from him. Daniela studied him for a long moment. Not the selfish brother. Not the threat, not the villain in her story. Just a man finally breaking open. "Showing up," she said slowly, "is not a gift you give me. It's a responsibility. If you want to help, help. If you want to be here, be here. But I won't carry you anymore, and I won't wait for you to change." Javier nodded, eyes shining with the sting of honesty. "I understand," he whispered. She gave him one small nod, permission, not forgiveness. He left quietly, but something about his footsteps sounded different this time. Not confident, not entitled, hopeful. By evening the house glowed again, not with flickering party candles, but with warm lamps and soft voices drifting through the halls. A rare peace settled over the rooms. Daniela stepped outside once more as the sun dipped low, staining the sky with amber and rose. The porch creaked beneath her feet, a familiar comforting sound. She looked at the house, the chipped paint, the old windows. The memories soaked into every beam. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't grand, but it was hers. Her father's words echoed softly in her mind, words he didn't remember saying, but she would remember forever. This is her home, and for the first time in all the years she'd lived here, Daniela let herself believe it. She wrapped the blanket tighter around her shoulders, closed her eyes, and inhaled deeply. The house breathed with her, steady, certain, alive. And the last light of day slipped behind the horizon, carrying with it the storm, the fear, and the silence, leaving only the truth, leaving only her, leaving a home that finally felt like hers.